Our lead story, Kevin Flynn, was reported missing. The visionary icon and Encom CEO skyrocketed to the top of the tech industry. He was last seen at home with his son Sam, leaving behind an empire and a now orphaned little boy.
Sam, I was paged last night. Page came from your dad's office at the arcade.
Alan, you're acting like I'm gonna find him sitting there working.
Where am I?
Tron is like being at a cool looking club and I'm there with nobody but you guys. And ain't no women, ain't no alcohol. In other words, there ain't shit going on. It ain't nothing but one big glowing sausage fest.
There's not a single chick in that room except for that goddamn blacklight poster. That's about of a girl, and that's all you're getting.
Or it's the bartender. You know you ain't getting her.
No.
And you know what? And she ain't serving.
Probably has a dick.
Female bartenders, in my experience, only sleep with the really scruffy guy in the kitchen.
This is a movie I think everyone's been waiting for since they saw that YouTube video where it was like a surprise. It was like a surprise clip that they had at Comic-Con, like what?
Yeah, no, I was
2
there for
years
that.
ago.
And
Yeah,
it blew me away. I was like, this is the best thing I've seen at Comic-Con. Got me excited. I was
Ever.
like, man, you guys, I can't wait till you see this. You're going to love it. But, that was, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah.
And everybody's still like, huh? What do you think? I'm like,
See, you've been jumping on my case. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying. I'm like, look, it was an awesome teaser, but an awesome teaser is not a movie. A cool trailer is not a movie. I was like, you know what? No matter how excited you get over how this looks, if you go see it, if the dialogue is bad, if the story is boring, you're gonna walk out of it forgetting it. It's not gonna matter to you.
Not to mention if the pacing is, glacial.
Yeah. And guess what, kids? It's all of that.
And Tron, the original, was released back in 1982, and it was, I used to always say that it was critically lambasted. It wasn't a financial success. And critics liked it. Actually, critics said that there was really cool acting here. There was groundbreaking visuals. That whole computer backlit animation that they had going on. In fact, this was supposed to be an animated film, and then everybody turned it down. It was taken to Disney, and Disney said, okay, they all agreed that we're gonna do this film, but we're also gonna do this live action, and so. It was sort of this thing that first launched kind of computer animation into the mainstream. I think it was like the first full-length feature that utilized this much computer animation. And it was modestly successful financially. So looking at this film, I'm thinking, all right, they got everything right except the story.
It starts out with potential. It ain't great, but it's like, okay, this can go somewhere. All it has to do is just keep getting better. And you get to that light cycle battle. It's like, okay, cool. They've updated everything. Graphics are cool. Love the soundtrack, the way it moves. And from that point on,
the movie the movie does blow its wad way too early, which in some ways I really liked. Just because, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, they're getting this thing started. They're not wasting any time. Thank God. And as soon as they get to the characters and they start talking, then that's all it becomes. It's just nothing but a movie full of exposition to where the stories people are talking about back and forth about what happened in this world, over all that lost time period. I'm just like, well, can I see that movie instead of hearing about it?
Well, even with what they're talking about, it's just so generic, really, in so many ways, and it borrows so heavily from so many other mythos and familiar things. I mean, all over the place, where you can't help, even if you're not cynical, but look at this and say, "Wow, this was completely calculated, cold, and hollow."
Well, the problem with it is that Tron, I think, at least the idea. The idea that I guess should have happened with that original movie, you can tell people took that idea because of their love of that film. We've seen movies like The Matrix where they've taken that idea and have expanded it to just where you're like, wow, that's completely original. It's awesome. But there are little hints of it already done in Tron.
Well, I think the thing here is that this is a Disney film. So back when they made this in 1982, I think it was praised for not being too cute. I mean, that's why they said it had such good acting, because they were saying, these people, it's a ridiculous story, but
there's no singing birds.
No,
animals.
There's no flying.
No, that's not like
there's not Chippy the singing Megabyte.
No, there wasn't like Pixie the magic pixel that came out. Hey, Tron, how you in Tron?
They did kind of have that. If you remember.
But it never talked.
It never did talk,
hey.
but it made cute noises.
Hey, there was no bibbity boppity boo shit.
Yeah.
Okay? I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Digital Uncle Remus, maybe. Even.
I know, but
Corey, we've been talking about the movie. I've been trying to spare you from telling people what the story is.
well, you know what? That's the thing I told you in the movie back at the theater is that I heard that this was confusing, but I understood it. I mean, you have to go way back into the roots of the first movie, which I'm not going to do here, but it did center on a character named Tron. You have Jeff Bridges, who works for this company. I forgot the name of Incom or something. Yeah,
Incom.
and they're a big video game company. Jeff Bridges, he creates a program that allows him to go into this world called the Grid, which is pretty much just a micro world.
It's the original Tron movie, is what
yeah,
that
and that's
is.
the original Tron movie. Well, that's what I'm describing. And when he went in there, the hero of this world was Tron, played by Bruce Boxleitner. Boxleitner, yeah.
Right.
So now we've come, I guess that was back in, the movie's 82, so now we've come like 2 decades later, and that world still exists. But Flynn, who was played by Jeff Bridges, also in the last movie, has disappeared. People assume that he's working on this big project, or he's dead, or he just said, fuck everybody, I got some money. I'm going to an island.
Hey, look, I wasn't ready to be a father, okay?
Yeah. I'm going to go get some hookers and blow and go to Costa Rica, and I ain't never coming back.
Pull the Superman's return.
He disappeared into a virtual world so he could have sex with Olivia Wilde for the next.
I was going to say.
Oh, yeah.
That seemed like the obvious choice
Yeah,
there.
if he said like this is look, if he said like why did I stay here? Look at this right
Have
here.
you seen
Like,
this?
all right.
Yeah. Look at her and look at my light cycle.
It wasn't my keyboard I've been tapping down here.
So in this in this movie, since Jeff Bridges' character is gone, we center on Garrett Edlund, who plays his son, who plays Sam Flynn. Yeah, and Bruce Boxleitner also played another programmer in the movie, just like he was Tron. He played a real life character, a user called what was his name, Alan.
Yeah, who had built Tron?
Yeah,
in the first place.
exactly.
Because
So-
all the avatars looked like the users who designed them. That's kind of seat.
So what you got here is that he's come back to talk to Sam. He said, look, your father, he's still somewhere out there. He left me a message. From that point on, the story gets crazy because Sam goes to the old arcade, cuts on some lights, opens a secret passage, goes in there.
Led to the Batcave on one side, and the other one took you into the virtual world.
Yeah, and it just so happens you have to pull the Tron video game to get back to that. So he goes back there.
Not very subtle.
Like I said, it's like, when they came to like lock that place down and put the tarps, he wasn't worried that somebody else, just some mover, might have moved that.
I would like to see that movie where you just got the mover in Tron World. It's like, what the fuck? Spitting digital tobacco.
It just so happens that Sam sits down in a chair where there's a laser pointed at him. He types in some code, takes him to the world of Tron. He finds that Tron is not the place that his father told him it was, his virtual paradise. It's actually been taken over by somebody that looks like his dad, but it's clearly not his dad, a character named Clue, which is an acronym for something. I don't know, constantly looking ugly. I don't know what that means. And Clue,
convincing.
Yeah, and Clue has taken over Tron to make it a perfect world. To do that, he's had to pretty much get rid of Flynn. So at this point, Sam is trying to look for his father and somehow get back to our world.
Yeah, the problem is that the portal, the thing that connects him there, is closed, which was the whole problem in the first place here for Flynn. So you're like, there is no going back, seemingly, and there's also a whole hidden agenda. Maybe things aren't really how they seem. Maybe Clue is smarter than he seems in just a regular program. Maybe he has diabolical designs on the planet Earth.
But, there's other things that get so confusing in here, like they just drop hints of other things that aren't made clear. You have hints of Clue wanting to come to our world and take over. You have all these other characters that are brought in that actually wear clothes like they're wearing hoodies and leather jackets and Adidas shoes and all, but they obviously come from the world of Tron and they're brought in to like participate in games. Why? Because they just not on the same team as Clue. They don't really explain a whole lot.
Society it exists of these gladiator games where you ride light cycles and fight each other, and then there's a gay bar run by Michael Sheen. And other than that, you just kind of stand around doing nothing.
And DJ'd, of course, by Daft Punk, apparently, in helmets. Yeah. It's like one of the only really Daft Punky scenes in the film is where it's like this bar and there's this huge fight scene in there. And like, the evil guys are coming in, whatever. And the DJs are like, oh, look, come on, it's Flynn, right? We got to change the music. Let's play the Obi-Wan music now. The Obi-Wan tap. Like, oh, now it's the bad guy. It's Clue. We got to change to that movie, the Imperial March. But with dance beats.
Yeah, which is like, okay, I'm glad they didn't keep going with that, because after a while, after seeing Daft Punk, I'm like, okay, I hope they don't start annoying me, only because they're in this movie. Okay, I get it. They did the soundtrack, but other than that, I don't give a shit. And the action scenes are pretty goddamn cool. But the thing is that I was really trying to look for a character to root for, to be the absolute hero. The only one that really had any real character to him was the Jeff Bridges character, the original character of Flynn, where I thought he was the only one that had any real life to him in this entire movie.
Even him, they had him echoing 80s cliches left and right, and it was just embarrassing to listen to him do it. It was like, okay, I get that he hasn't been in America for 20 years, but he also hasn't been frozen in ice. I mean, come on, man.
Still,
He can still be saying, radical dude.
But still, I like that, though. That really didn't bother me to the point that
one second he's being zen-like they're making him into Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the next minute they're making him into a surfer dude, into the Big Lebowski.
I thought the humor he brought, as Cyrus said, was embarrassing. I felt embarrassed for Jeff Bridges in this movie, having to deliver some of the lines he did, and his character. Like everything you said was true, but it was just inconsistent, because there were times they tried to make him like Obi-Wan Kenobi, like he had special powers, but he sort of didn't. And yeah, he's sprouting a radical dude, but then he's trying to be all zen and hippie.
The movie's a disappointment, but I think it has some good things going for it. I'm with you, man. I'll co-host. I'm with you. I'm on your side this night.
Thank God.
Yeah, tonight we're taking sides. Let's get them. No, I found that Jeff Bridges was the only piece of humanity in this, but and also Garrett Hedlund. I mean, he,
both the moments he had to shine, especially, I thought they worked great together. There's a father and son duo in their scenes. I thought they were great. But
that's the thing. I mean, they're the only things that I can grasp onto, and I agree with you. I mean, this is a guy that's been caught in a fucking computer program since the 80s. I'm surprised we didn't open up with him wearing Vans. And
that would have been funny.
He's still wearing like a "Where's the Beef" shirt.
Or a fucking Daft Punk.
I would have appreciated that.
Yeah, he's sitting up there. He's sitting up there with Cheech and Chong smoking a doobie and shit.
Singing Pac-Man Fever.
Pac-Man Fever.
Sam. Long time. You have no idea. You're here. You're here. I'm here. You're big. You're old.
But man, I kind of thought that was cool, and I like that the character of Clue, he invented Clue. And that's the cool thing about the story that I thought they didn't do too much with. Clue is his invention. Him and Clue are going to change the world. Clue turned against him, saying, "Look, if you ain't going to come correct with this, I'm about to take over."
Well,
How Hitler?
He flat out says, "It's like, do you want me to make a perfect system?" And Flynn says, "Well, yeah." And he said, "Okay, well then you have to go."
Yeah, he's like, "You got it." Slaps on that Hitler mustache and starts goose stepping.
I love how these guys, they never read any science fiction. They never watch Star Trek. Whenever you build a perfect machine, a perfect robot, that's what happens every time.
Yeah.
It goes sterilize. Oh, I have to make things perfect. Well, then all the humans have to die. Wait, what?
Yeah.
No, I didn't want that.
I didn't see that coming.
Motherfucker makes that mistake.
Yeah, what are you doing? I'm making
except for Isaac Asimov, he knew, and that's the whole thing. Is like, Flynn is an idiot. Really, you've never read like Isaac Asimov's books, The 5 Laws of Robotics. Really, every roboticist and scientist and AI guy knows that the first thing you do is you cannot cause any harm to human beings.
And what I like about the Clue character is that he's like him. He wasn't the whole time. Now, there were times, like you said, it's kind of inconsistent, but he wasn't the whole time talking about, "Obey me, destroy them.
Yeah.
You have failed me for the last time."
He didn't say that, but he treated people that
But
way.
he did. But you know what?
Anytime somebody failed him, he had some severe firing practice.
But I tell you what he did was, he was kind of like, hey, dude, yo, man, you fucked up. I'm going to have to kill you now. You know, he was kind of laid back. He's like,
really? I
No, you're
stop you.
No, when he walked out, when he walked out the
whoever
room.
did was walk around with he stomped with a scowl on his face.
Yeah.
Every scene.
When was he laid back?
Because
What
there was
scene was he
that. I'll
laid
tell you
back?
that one scene, and you saw it. That one scene where and I'm not going to tell you who. I'm not going to tell you. No, I got it. No, you saw it because you motherfuckers will come against me and tell me y'all will convince me that I didn't see this shit. Yeah, y'all will. I'll be sitting up here by myself, and they'll be like, "You didn't see that?" I'll be like, well, maybe I did.
I think he was starting to daydream.
See, that's the kind of
It was so
I know.
boring.
Don't thank you. You got me now. Thank you. Yeah, now you back me up here.
Yeah.
There was that moment that he was about to kill somebody, and he now here's how cool he was. He went and he knew he was gonna kill somebody, but he went back there, made a drink, came back up to the front, gave it to the guy, and he said, "Hey man, enjoy your drink," while they're putting explosives all over the place.
Had a snark about him, and I think the whole audience picked that up because they were kind of laughing.
Obviously, the whole audience didn't pick that up because
they
he was a
did.
boring ass villain.
Yeah,
he was
he was.
totally dull.
He was
there was
one note.
nothing menacing or interesting about him
I'm
at
not-
all.
no, see,
And not to mention, he looks worse than the characters in like a Christmas Carol and all that stuff. The stuff that Robert Zemeckis is doing, he didn't even look as good as those.
I don't.
characters.
I don't think it looked that bad. It was.
I didn't think it looked terrible, but it
no,
did
they're-
look
okay,
good.
okay, look,
The CG is probably better than most
let me tell-
everything,
Yeah.
but they still have that dead eye.
Well, let me tell people what you're talking about. So, in order to make what's his name, Jeff Bridges look like his character back from the original Tron, because Clue is an offspring of that character, they use CG technology to recreate a young Jeff Bridges. Now, when you look at it, it's slightly off-putting, but I thought it was pretty good. I heard you whisper to Cyrus. You said they're not there yet, and I was thinking the same thing, but I was thinking they're pretty close.
It's not perfect, but there were a few scenes, especially towards the end,
Yeah.
where I'm like, they must have been like really trying to improve on this technique as far as getting someone to look as young as Jeff Bridges did back in the original movie. To where there's some moments where I was like, okay, wow, that scene right there, they almost nailed it.
I thought it
and you're
worked in
right.
some
It
parts.
got better towards the end. It was weird that you're like, really, you didn't think you'd go and do whatever fix you found and put it on the front end,
Right.
But even so, my problem with it isn't that if you can still see that they're not there yet and that he's CG. That's not a problem with me. My problem is he's the only character in the entire universe who looks that way. Doesn't make any sense at all, and it completely takes you out of the film. Why aren't all the other programs? Why don't they all look that way and have that same sort of in between animated look? I mean, I don't understand why they made that. I mean, I understand because of the budget reasons, but it wasn't implausible
Which
to
you're
make
right.
everybody look that way. And they, you should have picked one way or the other.
Which you're right. There was part of me where I'm like, wow, I hope someday they can go back and kind of fix this like they did with Yoda.
Why should they? Don't you know what I would say? Don't waste your time because I'm telling you. Look, I'm not saying that he was a great villain. I like his demeanor. The reason why I was impressed with his demeanor is because I was thinking, wow, man, this could have been such a great villain had he been threatening. He ain't doing nothing. He's just going around, just kind of strolling, mean mugging people. And
Mean mugging.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, he's just looking at me, just walking the room, just that's it. It's like, do something, man. And which he did. He's kind of a badass in some parts, but that's my problem with the film is that they hold this movie. I think Disney itself was holding this property so precious that they forgot to put in any humor, any humanity. When you go to Tron, I know that these are supposed to be characters and inhabitants and citizens of a CG world or a virtual computer world. But that doesn't mean that, look, if Jeff Bridges can be cool and laid back and sit up there smoking a joint, how come all these other people just can't live like, be offshoots of characters of ourselves in like a natural city? I'm having some crazy problems with the grid on this computer right here. This computer is almost taking like, y'all talking about Tron? That's a friend of mine. Teach you. But no, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop my complaining of this film because there are some things that I do like, and we're running long on this. I just want to end with two complaints. One, this world didn't seem sinister enough. With all these things and these goals they had to do, it just didn't seem like there was any danger at all that surrounded them. I mean, this city seemed like it was 2 blocks. Every villain in here just seemed like they weren't too threatening.
All it was going to take was for somebody to come and unplug the computer, and then there'd be no threat to any world at all.
Yeah. And Michael Sheen gives an embarrassing performance in this. I mean, it starts out all right. It starts out cool. And then there's a scene where they just let him just kind of do all this dancing and mugging for the camera. And it's just, I mean, he's chewing up virtual scenery. And it's just like...
It does get that embarrassing.
Yeah. He plays like a very gay character.
Yeah, it was
movie.
like they said, okay, in this scene, you're Elton John. Go.
Yeah. And you know what? In my last complaint, I said there was 2, there's 3. And we already mentioned it. Everybody remembers the Tron game. Some people say that the game made more money than the movie did, which I'm pretty sure it did. And the reason why I remember it is because of 2 icons. There was the disc fighting in there, which everybody remembers that. They have this in this movie. And then they have the light cycle race. Yeah. And they start out with some really kick-ass action scenes with all those elements, a really badass disc fighting scene. And then they have this light cycle scene where they bring it very much into the new millennium. I mean, it's gorgeous. I mean, as the whole movie is, but it's the first half of the film. I mean, we're barely like 40 minutes into the film, and after that last light cycle race, somebody turns around, looks at the camera, and says, ta-da!
you want to look around and go, hey, any of you guys got any more quarters?
No, it's like the movie just had a spectacular orgasm, and now it's got to take a nap for another 40 minutes, because that's exactly what it does.
Yeah. And now for my next trick, another 40 minutes of dialogue.
Talk.
They just
too much
talk.
Yeah.
And
Talk about nothing.
I was drifting off to sleep. I'm like, I'm going to my own virtual world where shit happens.
My biggest, the biggest complaint, I mean, my last complaint here about this film is that the character that I really liked in the first movie was Tron himself.
Oh.
This movie is called Tron.
That's too bad.
And I really did not like the fact that they really made him a side character to where
Barely a side
No, I wouldn't even, that was a cameo.
he was he was a cameo.
Yeah.
No, you're
This movie should have been called Tron Cameo.
Yeah, I know. It's like the movie's not called Flynn. The movie's called Tron.
It's almost a dream
And the
sequence.
fact that they don't reveal his face, I was like, what the hell?
Well,
Yeah.
the thing.
Well, they did early on. They had a young Bruce
Right.
Banner.
Well, in a
But
flashback.
then later,
In
there's a
flashbacks,
point
yeah.
when it becomes really important. Would have been really important to reveal his face.
And there's
to
obviously
have him
no
show
reason
emotion.
not to.
Right.
Because obviously the actor was involved in the production.
I love this is Disney being able to be violent in a movie, just severing limbs and putting people's faces out and all this kind of stuff without having to like be gory. I mean,
Well, because they're programs.
Yeah, but they're programs, and when you kill people, I love that effect. I love the whole, like, I guess they call it de-resing, and you just burst into a bunch of pixels, and that's it. If I went to the Tron world, I'd be totally fucking evil because I'd be killing everything just to get that effect.
to do it. Yeah.
I don't give a damn.
You know what cracks me up though is that, like, you know, Flynn's son, what's his character's name? Sam. You know, gets in a fight early on, and the guy he's fighting actually sees him bleed for real, which programs don't do, and he realizes he's a user. And what cracked me up is that the blood was so CG looking. Wow.
So you're like, man, those are some advanced graphics right there.
Yeah.
I will say, you know what? You can't take away anything from the look of the movie. The look, you know, the style, the effects. They're gorgeous. They do give you everything that you've been wanting. Everything you've been seeing is like, wow, that is awesome. Although I gotta say, a lot of that is taken away from me the minute y'all started comparing it to a nightclub. And I was like, shit, this is that nightclub look. Maybe it's not so special after all.
Hey, look, if there was a nightclub that looked like Tron, I'd be there every fucking night.
And after like a week or two, you'd stop thinking about how cool it was.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it just, for as good as it looks, it just doesn't offer those things you need to love or even like the movie. I mean, I love the look of it, and for me, the best things about this movie are the soundtrack, the score, and the toys that come with it. Because they make some cool ass toys for this movie. It commits the worst crime a movie can commit, and that it is boring.
Yeah.
Boring. It is just hard to stay awake through. And man, when a movie does that, it's hard to defend it. It's hard to come back and want to see it again. It's hard to tell people, go see it. You know, I would say, hey, if you're seeing something else, sneak in and watch that first 20 minutes, and you'll love that. And, you know, and as far as like, you know, 3D goes, I feel like this was done in post because there wasn't that much they did with the 3D.
I kept forgetting it was in 3D.
And by all means, if you see it in 3D, take your glasses off when they're not in the Tron world.
Yeah.
Because they aren't doing it, and you can actually see things better. It actually looks...
It's lighter. It's brighter.
It's lighter. It's brighter. Yeah. You know, it's got a look to it. Yeah, for me, this is just a rental.
That's the thing. Tron Legacy is a bad movie. It's a pretty light show, and it might even be a good music video, but it's not a good movie. I can't think of anything as far as structure of a film about it that was enjoyable for me. I was like, I was so with this going, God, yes, let this be as good as it looks, please. I so wanted it to succeed. I kept forgiving it, but by the time I got to the end, I had just given up completely on it. I mean, I admit that Tron light cycle fight was one of the coolest chase scenes I've seen in a while, but that is not enough to recommend a movie. It's enough to recommend people to download it on YouTube is what it is. And I
wouldn't
wish I
say
could
that.
like this
because even should be on a high def television at least.
Yeah, well, wait for the Blu-ray then.
There you go.
And just watch that scene. Yeah, it's not like it's like painfully terrible. It's just painfully boring, like you said. So I'm going to give this a rental, and I think even that might be being a little bit too kind to it.
Well, the thing is, I see where you guys are coming from, and I kind of agree with you, but it's, for me at least, I still found a lot of things in this movie that I did like. I mean, it's a gorgeous film. If anything, I give the look of the film, even the score, which I have to give credit to Daft Punk for making an actual movie score and not so much a dance song throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, this might be my favorite score. I just love it. It made
incredible,
scenes that weren't that good feel like they were good.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I think a good score can really help out a movie, which that score did for this film. So I'll give the look and the music of it a full price. But the thing is that yes, there are problems. There's a part towards the middle where it just gets slow, but they do a good job of kind of bringing it back up with that air fight scene, which I thought
the Star Wars scene.
Yeah, which I thought, is a lot cooler than anything I saw in the last 3 Star Wars films, and I enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it a matinee.
The grid is obviously under a dictatorship, and Clue, seeking for perfection, has just committed all kind of genocide. I mean, you can call it the Nazi Party or whatever you want to call it. We always make that analogy. But the thing is, I didn't feel that the environment that they were running in was threatening at all. I feel like there should have been more against them, and it didn't seem that way. So I didn't really feel any kind of tension for the characters as they roamed around this environment. If you can't give me a good story, then give me a lot of action to distract me. If you can't give me a lot of action, then give me an engaging story. This movie fails on some level at both points, but it's barely hanging on. I mean, it's like got one finger on the ledge of hanging on at a matinee just because I really did enjoy the way the movie looked, and I love the music. And I did enjoy that little bit of action that I did get.
Well, they're certainly hoping there's going to be a sequel because they just left all kinds of shit open, like at the end of it. I mean, there's all these little clues towards the end. It's like, oh, you see that? You know what that means, right? Yeah. Well, we don't know what that means either, but it might mean something if we want it to.
Well, also something I talked about crimes it commits. It's what, over 2 hours? Like 2 hours
it's
and 20?
About 6 minutes over 2 hours.
It could have lost a good 40 minutes.
Oh, yeah, it could have. And you know what? The other thing is, if you look closely, they blatantly... Well, I'm not going to say rip off, but if you're a big fan of Akira, there's really 2 scenes in here that you are totally ripped from the motorcycle race in Akira.
It's funny because they ripped off so many things.
Well, but this is like
missed the very obvious.
Well, when you watch Akira,
thing.
I mean, when I watched Akira, I was like, well, they ripped off some stuff from Tron when I saw Akira.
Well, this is before they even go into the grid. There's a scene where Garrett, what's his name?
Sam Flynn.
Sam Flynn. Yeah, he's running from the police, and there's a couple of actions that they pretty much just lifted right out of Akira. And I don't know, you just have to watch the movie to see it. I'm not going to even say it's a rip off. Hey, look, they'll come back and tell me, oh, it was an homage. Okay, all right, you got me. The other thing I like about it, though, I mean, Jeff Bridges was kind of, I like his character, but he's just a little bit maybe too laid back because they go into the grid. He ain't even shaved. You can say he's wearing like a monk's robe, but that's a bathroom robe he's got on. He is like the dude. And I don't even think the grid or Tron or any of that stuff even existed. I think it's just Flynn high as hell, sitting in the middle of his stoner's blacklit room. He's growing pot over here.
Oh yeah, it's like an opium den.
Yeah, he's reading a High Times magazine.
Well, plus I couldn't figure out where Jeff Bridges was hiding that they couldn't find him. I'm like, somebody Clue could have found him if he wanted to. It's
he's obviously
base.
He's obviously good still at being a user or whatever. I mean, in his weird little world he's created with a bunch of Earth-like shit, he can actually make like a whole roast pig. I mean, where else is that happening in the Tron world? It's like, wait, that's like real food. Where did that come from?
You know what? Can I give a nice shout out to Cillian Murphy, who made a nice
who was barely in this?
Well, it's funny because the movie had such a Batman Begins feel, the whole corporate takeover, and yeah, Cillian Murphy's there.
They're setting up villains in the beginning who never appear again.
Yeah, that is true. That dude, he was gone.
Yeah, he was.
He's like, why are you even here?
I was waiting for him to go, would you like to see my mask?
The Grid, a place of infinite possibility.
It's incredible.
More beautiful than I ever dreamed. And more dangerous than I ever imagined.
What happened?
My creation turned against me.
Captain Flynn! Where are you now?
What am I supposed to do?
Survive.